Ms. Smiley, can we get an audio check, please?
Hey, Todd. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Dr. Felder, can we get an audio check, please?
Sure. Good morning. Oops.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Ms.
Huh.
Moore, can we get an audio check, please?
That's interesting. Oh my.
Yes, good morning.
Thank you. Ms. Stevens, can we get an audio check, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. So, Madam Chair, we've got an audio check from everyone except for Ms. Hauser, and I know that Joe Schofield is working with her on that. He's remoted into her machine.
Okay, is Mr. Atherton here?
I don't see him yet.
Okay, so we're still waiting on a few people, but you've got audio checks from everyone who's already.
So far, yes.
Perfect. Good morning, Mr. Atherton.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Hillary.
Ms. Hauser, can we get an audio check, please? Ms. Hauser, can you please try to unmute and give us an audio check?
So it looks like everyone else is here. Dr. Felder is here, Ms. Smiley. Okay, so at this point, we're just waiting to make sure that Ms. Hauser is connected. Is that correct, Mr. Jones?
It appears she's connected, but Joe's still working on her audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
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 Okay, good work,
Hooray.
Joe. I'm gonna keep
Just
the
in the nick
video
of
off.
time.
I'll keep the video off. I've turned off all the other devices in my house. Actually, there's one more.
Okay, well, it is 9 o'clock. Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, July 16th, and I'm calling to order this emergency meeting of the Orange County Schools Board of Education. I'd like to begin by extending the board's deepest thanks to our staff members who have been working around the clock to prepare for our upcoming school year. I'm both inspired and grateful for the commitment to our students and to our community's many needs that's evident by the long hours, emails in the middle of the night, and the creative problem solving that we're seeing all the time. You're doing an incredible job, and the board is truly thankful for all of your efforts. We have called this meeting with the knowledge that there isn't going to be a perfect decision made here today, and that we promise that regardless of the outcome, that the board and OCS staff will work diligently to meet the needs of our students and our teachers this year. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Felder.
Good morning, Board Chair, Mrs. McKenzie, Vice Chair, Mrs. Stevens, and to the entire Orange County School Board members. Thank you so much for this opportunity to meet. So the purpose of this meeting is for me to present a revised recommendation for the reopening of schools. Before I do that, I want to take a moment to make something perfectly clear. As an educator, a longtime educator, as a mother and a grandmother, I want nothing more than for all of our students, all of our teachers, all of our staff to return to school for in-person instruction. I wanted that in March. I wanted that in April. I want it now. And without question, I also want to remind everyone that safety and the health of our students, staff remains the #1 priority for Orange County schools. I listened to the governor's remarks on Tuesday. Afterwards, I personally, when I say personally, picked up the phone and consulted with the director of our local Orange County Health Department yesterday. Unfortunately, COVID-19 is not only not under control or decreasing in the state, it's also not under control or decreasing in this county. Let's take a look at some data. Mr. Jones, if you advance to the next slide. So again, as we were informed by the governor, the cases in North Carolina are rising, and so are the numbers here in Orange County. Back in March, when we shut down schools for learning, we had 0 COVID-19 cases. As of yesterday, July 15th, in this county, we have 1,015 cases and 43 deaths. But we are asked to send students and staff back to schools. I don't know how, in all good conscience, given those statistics, we can do that. Next slide, please. Additionally, when looking at the demographic breakdown, our children may not be as impacted as adults. One of the things I learned from the director of our local Department of Health is that new information is coming out daily. So while children may not be as impacted as adults, we have 102 cases between the ages of 0 and 17 in this county. And that's our school age children. So again, in this county, 102 cases of COVID-19 exists for children between the ages of 0 and 17. As for adults, 55% of the cases are in the age range of our staff. And there are 558 cases in that age range. So when faced with the decision of life and death of our children and our staff, I will choose life every time. And so as a result, I am recommending the following. Mr. Jones, if you could advance to the next slide. While we have been, and I appreciate your opening remarks, Mrs. McKenzie, because we have been working day and night, round the clock. We are tired, but we know that we're doing the right thing in our work of working towards ensuring that our students and staff are prepared for this school year. And so it's good work. And the plan that we've been working towards is Plan B. And we are continuing to work towards Plan B because we want to be fully ready for Plan B. But given this information, I am now recommending that we pivot to Plan C, remote learning, until and only until COVID-19 conditions in this county improve to enable students and staff to safely return for in-person instruction. And I am also recommending that we continue with the implementation of the Orange County Schools virtual academy for this school year. Next slide, please. And so while more information and details will be shared on Monday, I just want to take this opportunity to reiterate that remote learning will look very differently in Orange County Schools this year under Plan B, which we will be able to stand up and have ready effective August 17th, as well as under Plan C, which is what I'm recommending now, given the data that I just shared about COVID-19 in this county. And so the differences between, so what's the difference between remote learning and, well, let me start there with remote learning and a virtual academy. Under remote learning, the goal is to return to the classroom for in-person learning. So with remote learning, Plan C, we can easily pivot to Plan B, in-person learning, as that is the goal, when it is safe to do so. For families selecting virtual academy, it is a 100% online learning opportunity. There is no opportunity, there will be no opportunity for in-person instruction. And of course, there are limited seats, thanks to all of you, for students K to 12. So again, virtual academy, 100% online opportunity, no in-person instruction, unlimited seats. And what I've heard from families is that some families need that option, some families want that option, and some families desire that option because as a result of the remote learning that we did in the spring, they found that their children thrive in a remote learning environment. that it works for their family. And so they're looking for a 100% online learning opportunity, and we will be able to provide that opportunity with the Orange County Schools Virtual Academy. But with regards to what are the differences then between remote learning that occurred in the spring, which we are calling remote learning 1.0, and remote learning that will occur this fall, effective August 17th, remote learning 2.0. These next three charts that you've seen previously, help to describe the differences. And so there will be asynchronous. The difference is that the biggest difference would be that in the spring, we relied heavily on choice boards. And again, our staff did a miraculous job of standing up remote learning under very tight time constraints, going from 0 remote learning to what we were able to provide in the spring was nothing short of miraculous. And I remain very grateful to the staff. I know how hard they worked to pull that together. But remote learning 1.0, we relied on choice boards. There was some synchronous learning, some asynchronous learning, and really focused on previous content. It will look very different in remote learning 2.0 that we're standing up effective next month. And so there, it will focus on new content. Attendance will be taken. We will focus on grading. There will be both synchronous and asynchronous instruction, small group instruction. And so that's one of the ways, or some of the ways that remote learning will be upgraded for the fall with regards to curriculum. Another area that remote learning will look very different is in terms of instruction. And so we've heard from our families the difficulty of having multiple learning management platforms. And so it was very challenging for families to navigate. And we also had very limited professional development and support opportunities for not only our families, but for our staff. That will be different come this fall, so in August. And so we will have one learning management platform. It will be organized, accountable, user-friendly, with clear directions. We will provide training for parents, training for our students, as well as for our staff. And there will be multiple pathways to learn, whole class, small group breakouts, one-on-one conferencing, et cetera. And then last but not least, in this next slide, the changes that you'll see in between remote learning 1.0 and remote learning 2.0 will also be seen in the environment, in that while there in remote learning 1.0, there was very little face-to-face instruction.
Dr. Felder, can I stop you for 1 minute? I'm not sure we're on the correct slide. Is this the correct slide that we're on?
It is. It's the correct slide.
Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies, everyone. Excuse me, Dr. Felder.
No, you're well. Actually, Mr. Jones, if you could advance to the next slide. I'm sorry. I am working from 2 laptops, and so one laptop is, one has sound and one does not, and so I'm looking between 2, and so. Remote learning the difference between remote learning 1.0 and remote learning 2.0 will be seen in 3 areas. One was the curriculum, so I spoke about that. The second was with regards to instruction. The next area that you will see a difference would be in environment. So Mr. Jones, if you can advance to the next slide, please. And thank you, Mrs. McKenzie, for pointing out that we were just a little off there with regard to the next revision or upgrade in remote learning will be in the environment. And so again, in the spring, there was very little face-to-face instruction. There was some, but it was not frequent. It was infrequent. And there were more barriers to technology access. In remote learning 2.0, there will be face-to-face instruction. There will be a schedule, and the next couple of slides are slides that you don't turn just yet, Mr. Jones. Slides that you've seen previously, but I want to again just reiterate that the schedule will look very different. It will be closer to the typical schedule that we have when we have in-person instruction. There will be clear communication and interaction expectations, daily, weekly teacher to student and peer to peer connections, focus on SEL. There will be art, music, PE, just CTE, STEM, and even virtual field trips. So yes, we can do field trips remotely. So with regards to remote learning, 1.0, what families experienced in the spring and what families will experience next month will be very different. We have upgraded remote learning. The next slide, as I mentioned, speaks to the schedules. And so this is just a sample as not approved, but just to give the board and our listening audience and viewing audience an opportunity to again see that this for remote learning 2.0 will look very different than the schedule we had for 1.0, which was largely office hours. So you can see this is an elementary sample. And so in this sample, there would be a class meeting from 8 to 8:15, synchronous and asynchronous instruction focused on literacy from 8:15 to 9:15. Students would have a break. There would be math instruction from 9:45 to 10:45 to include small group instruction. There would be a long lunch break because we need to give students opportunity to get lunch if that means needing to go to one of the feeding sites, or we are looking at using our buses to drive the routes, and so students can pick up lunch in that way. But this would be also time for art, music, PE, and other electives. It would also be a time for independent study where students who have an interest in a particular interest can use that time to do some independent research. It's also a time for one-on-one and small group instruction and for teacher planning. And then later in the afternoon, there would be opportunity for more one-on-one and small group instruction and office hours. And so again, this schedule looks very different than the schedule that we had in the spring. Next slide, please, Mr. Jones. So the next slide is just a sample of a secondary schedule. So again, this is an example of how remote learning in the spring will be upgraded and look different come the fall. And then lastly, I just want to remind families who are interested in the Orange County Virtual Academy, wanting more information, that we have set up a number of information sessions. And that information was shared yesterday, but there's one tonight from 5 to 6 p.m. There is, and that's followed by another session from 6 to 7. And those sessions repeat tomorrow, same time frame, 5 to 6 and 6 to 7 p.m. So with that, that concludes my recommendation and the rationale for my recommendation. Again, recommending that while we continue to work towards Plan B, and we will be ready for Plan B, that given the state of COVID-19 in this county at this time, that we pivot to Plan C, remote learning, and reassess the status of COVID-19 in the district in a few weeks in order to determine at that time if we are in a position to shift to Plan B.
Thank you so much, Dr. Felder. I will just quickly say that I enthusiastically support Dr. Felder's recommendation, but before I say more, I'm going to open the floor up to my colleagues to have a discussion about this. Mr. Atherton?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Felder. I know the staff has been working on this. There's been a lot of focus to try to understand, what makes sense for Orange County, especially for our staff, students, and families. Essentially the governor, when he made his announcement, made the teachers essential workers. I mean, that's really what he announced. And from talking to many of our teachers and seeing the surveys, our teachers are scared. They are unclear on things they can and can't do in the classroom. We don't have our policies to address all the questions. And I think we need to understand how we can address some of their concerns, especially given the situation we're in. I do think we've got to also look at treating high school, middle school, and elementary different as we determine criteria for coming back. The challenges are different. Some are easier, some are harder, depending on which group. And I also feel we really need some metrics. What are the requirements to come back to school? Is it we're going to talk to the health director and they're going to tell us it's okay? I think we've got to say, list out as part of this motion or discussion, here's the things that need to be true for us to go back, for it to be safe, right? Does that mean the number of new cases or the cases have fallen or no new cases? Are we saying that the only way to be safe is there has to be a vaccine? I don't think that's what we're saying, but we've got to set some expectations, right? I'm hearing from families, and rightly so, that what is it that says this is why we believe we can get back in the school? So I think we need to have a discussion today about what those are. What are the requirements? My last comment, I have a whole list from talking to lots of people, and I appreciate it. Looking at 570 and rising online for this meeting just tells you how important this is to everybody. But my last comment, and I'll relinquish to other board members, is, the virtual academy. We all agreed based on the presentation that families could choose to go back in person at some minimum defined point. But I see on our website now, it states that you can't do that. I don't understand why that changed. I still believe we should allow that. Maybe after we're out of the post-COVID and we have a virtual program that's sustained, I think that makes sense for just saying, hey, if you're in that, the expectation is you're in it, you can't get out. But I know that multiple board members were, in support of allowing that at some transition, half a year, by a semester, whatever it was. But I was very surprised and pointed out to me by multiple families.
So thank you so much, Mr. Atherton. I just want to address the not being able to opt out. That has to be an error.
Okay.
Because families can opt out. In fact, Dr. Dawson, if you are on, you know that she's leading this effort in the district. Now there are windows to do that. And so, so when families sign on or sign up, actually, I'll let Dr. Dawson speak to this. She's leading this effort. Dr. Dawson.
Yes. Good morning, Board Chair, Vice Chair, and the board. Thank you, Dr. Felder. Yes, we have not swayed from allowing families to opt in and out. The initial information we had shared was that what we were looking at for them, to avoid disruptions in student learning and to allow them to be able to, especially in the middle and high schools, to finish a course because of the block schedule before transitioning. We were looking at the semester break, which seemed like a natural break. And upon further feedback and review, we do stay with that middle and high school, but we felt that for elementary, that there could be more flexibility because they're not on a block schedule, not having to complete a course within a certain window of time. And so we are looking at allowing families to opt in or out during each a marking term. So families that are starting in virtual academy this fall could, after first marking term, assess that, you know what, this wasn't the best fit for us as we thought. And so we would like our child to return back to the other option, which at that time may still be Plan C, but hopefully it'll be Plan B. And then ultimately that Plan A all back in school. And just the same, if a parent is starting in remote right now, and after they've experienced this and they're saying, well, you know what, my child actually, under the 2.0 version of online learning, my child is thriving and this is working well for them, and they want to opt in to maintain that, they can opt into the virtual academy for elementary at marking term. And what we ask is that families give us at least a 2-week notice so that we can review the impact of that, not only on their child, but also teacher and the staffing allocations. And that is one of the reasons why we're asking families to do so in these time periods, because it does impact our staffing, staff alignment. And, you know, we're in this world of so many disruptions that we have no control over. So if there are any disruptions that we can control, we are trying to do so to minimize those disruptions for our children and our staff. So just in summary, middle school, high school families, you can opt in, preferably at semester break with at least a 2-week notice. Elementary families, you will have the option to opt in or opt out at each marking term. And we ask also again for at least a 2-week notice. Thank you.
That's fantastic. I'm so excited to hear that. I know many of the families online are too. The way it reads right now is families who sign up for the virtual option will not be able to change to in-person program. And if we can get that updated and, you know, the semester alignment, that sounds great. I know that it makes sense and we want to minimize disruptions, but thank you so much for the clarity, and hopefully that's set a lot of minds at ease. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Dawson, Dr. Felder, Mr. Eichelton. Are there other comments from the board? Ms. Hauser, and then Ms. Smiley.
Okay, first, I just want to thank Dr. Felder and her team for all the incredible work to get to B, and for staying on top of it and being flexible. And I know that it is a huge disappointment for you to have to switch us to C because you want us back in school. I'm certain of that. I also wanted to thank our parents because they have sent so much information to us and so many good questions to enrich our thinking and our planning. And I'm thrilled, thank you, Dr. Felder, also for arranging for these town halls to happen so quickly. There's a really good chance to continue that conversation. And if I might steal one comment from our parents, that we're on uncharted waters and the currents are changing every minute. And I'd add that it opens up new opportunities for learning, for small group instruction, and other things that are going to really be different about the way we deliver education in the future. But it's really hard, and everyone's voice is important, and we just need to keep moving forward together. So I just want to thank you for that. I do plan to support your recommendation, and I'm hoping that with this additional time that you'll be looking forward to your sharing more thoughts about how we can move more certainly to open our schools in for 4 weeks later, to open the buildings and get people in. So I wonder if you might just clarify, because I think people are telling me we're not sure if we're just delaying this and it's going to keep delaying, or are we really planning to open in four more weeks? I think people need to hear that.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Hauser. So we are absolutely planning towards, that's been our only plan, and Plan B, that is. And the beauty of planning for Plan B is that by default, we were planning for Plan C because Plan B includes remote. It's that hybrid model, right? It's the in-person and remote. So by default, we planning for Plan C, but we are still planning towards Plan B, and we will be ready for Plan B in terms of signage. And so it is expected between August 10th and August 17th that every building, every school is set up for Plan B. The rooms will be set up, the signage will be up, all of those pieces will be in place. We would have practice, the attestation, where students are screened. We have plans for and working out plans for transportation. Hence this last survey we sent to families, we needed to know, because we are finalizing our plans. Do you need transportation? Do you need it in the morning, in the afternoon? Is your child going to be a car rider? We are working out our plans around meals. Those will be different in terms of pre-packaged, but still it has to get packaged. And so we needed to know about families' interest in that. And so the goal is still to be ready for Plan B come August 17th. And we are well on our way towards doing that. Yeah.
So I would just offer, echoing Dr. Felder, that we all really, I know everyone listening, everyone here, we all want our kids back in school as soon as possible. And that unfortunately, Orange County Schools is not in control of this situation. COVID-19 is. So I'm just going to throw that out there as we continue this conversation. And I'm going to pass it to Ms. Smiley, and then I know Ms. Moore had a comment as well.
Thanks. On that note, please wear your masks and social distance. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely support the decision to start in Plan C. Just taking the layers a bit, like, the United States does not have this in control, right? Americans are not allowed into Europe because we do not have this under control. North Carolina is seeing increasing cases. North Carolinians going to other parts of the United States in many other states need to self-quarantine because North Carolina has rising cases. And then in Orange County, we're also seeing the rising cases and hospitalizations. And you know, I was looking at some data. A lot of the thoughts about going back to school are pointing to other countries who've done that safely. And I was comparing our rate of new cases and their rate of new cases, thanks to a very good article I was reading that did the analysis by Nan Fulcher. And Orange County, relative to size, has 10 times as many new cases every day, at least 10 times, as when Germany opened. We have around, if my math is right, 100 times as many new cases every day as South Korea did when they opened. So a lot of this, schools can reopen safely. They had much lower prevalence of COVID in their area, likely to show up in their schools. So to me, it is absolutely a health and safety issue first. And what we need to see is a much lower prevalence of COVID in Orange County. I agree with Ms. Ratherton that I think it would be very helpful to understand what are those metrics, like how will we know? My hope is that we do not need to wait for a vaccine to open our buildings. I don't believe that we do. I hope that we get more studies that support that. And I just think better to go with Plan C to start and take like 50 new steps to mitigate all of the challenges and hardships that are created for families, because there are many downsides to either Plan B or Plan C for families. Even in Plan B, childcare is an issue, and being disconnected from school and mental health, all those things are issues in Plan B too. So we need to do things in Plan C that I think will, if we can move into Plan B, that will also serve families in that setting. I just think it's really important for us to remember that. And you know, what I think is horrible about this situation is that the kids and the families who are going to experience the, you know, they're sort of most at risk of all of the negative impacts of this are the ones who are most marginalized and least served in the first place. You know, their families experiencing unemployment, their kids with mental health challenges, their, you know, it's Black and Latinx families are more likely to get COVID, more likely to have challenges with the remote learning. it's like a terrible, terrible dilemma that we're in. And I'm really proud of how the district has handled this so far. I really believe in our ability to start in Plan C and make this really good and do things about all of those challenges. And my only, I guess I have two questions at this point, and then more things that I'm thinking we could talk about on Monday. But the two questions for right now, one is about related to what Ms. Hauser said, the timing of all of this. You know, I think there's like a time frame at which, like, let's revisit where our data is in terms of COVID spread. There's also like families and staff needing time to make that transition. And what I am wondering is it that we look at the data in 5 weeks or 6 weeks or 4 weeks, you know, somewhere in there, and say, and at the end of the 9 weeks, you know, this is, you know, the first 9 weeks, we're going to do Plan C. We're going to partway through see if we can change course to Plan B or not, to give everybody some transition time. So that's one thing I'm wondering is about, I don't think we would look in 4 weeks and say, okay, so on Monday, everyone, we're going to go to this other model. So actually, should we just be looking at that first 9 week period? That's my first question. The other is about exceptional children who are in self-contained settings, separate, I'm not remembering the term, self-contained classrooms, and whether we're thinking about making any modifications to this for any groups of students. They were the ones that sort of first came to mind. I'm also thinking about, well, I'll just stop there. So first 9 weeks question, and the question about children in separate settings for exceptional children.
Dr. Felder, do you want to take a stab at those questions right now, or should we? I guess, do you want to answer those first?
Sure. Well, I'm actually going to ask Mrs. Crimmins, who is our director for exceptional children, to speak to where we are with planning for our exceptional children, particularly those who are in separate settings. And so it certainly raises, I'll just say, there are clearly there will be challenges there. But what I can say with regards to the needing to determining whether or not we would pivot from Plan C to Plan B at some given point, I absolutely agree that there has to be ample time to do that. And so whether it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks, the whole semester, we need to stop and check in. And I think whatever that check-in is, we need to do that in consultation with the health experts and in learning what those metrics are. I can't tell us what the metrics are. So I think we work with the health department to identify what those metrics will be. But yes, whatever the next decision will be, we should give families ample notice so that they can make any adjustments that they will need to make. Absolutely agree with that.
Thank you, Dr. Felder. Is Ms. Crimmins on? Is she?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Crimmins.
My video is having, so I apologize for that.
No problem.
So I just want to start by saying, and I know that there are a lot of families that in talking with Dr. Felder, that this decision to go fully remote for all students has really tugged at my heart, because I know the difficulties there are with educating students with complex disabilities. And I have had sleepless nights just thinking about bringing students in, but then the potential health and safety, and to have a student or a parent or a teacher come down with COVID, to me right now, that might be more pressing. And knowing that there's spikes in the cases in Orange County right now, it's just it was a hard decision. In terms of what we're doing for our students, I have pulled together a small thought partner group of our teachers with separate settings, and we are planning out schedules. We are looking at how to best do remote learning for students. We've had an incredible success for teachers being able to create lessons during during extended school year. And we are going to be putting together schedules. I've talked with Melanie Stowe, and we want to have info sessions for our parents so that they know what the fall will look like while we are in the remote learning possibilities. Additionally, I want to say that IEP goals will be addressed. In the spring, we were on more of a maintenance mode, and in the fall, we will need to move forward. Our direct instruction programs, we have contacted companies and pulled those together, mostly online. The company that we are going to be partnering with for the curriculum has some excellent tools that will additionally help support students with disabilities in a diagnostic and prescriptive manner, meaning that when we can further learn where the gaps in learning are, that this program, along with teacher support, and I want to make that very clear, that teacher support is going to be huge with this. So it's not going to be that students are just left to work online. Our teachers will be pulling small groups, directing lessons, and through those mechanisms to be able to move forward on IEP goals. Does that answer your question, Ms. Smiley?
It does. Thank you so much for the work you're doing, Ms. Crimmins.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crimmins. I know that we all will continue to collaborate and creatively problem solve as best we can to meet the needs of our students while we have to be remote. And
Yes.
I certainly echo your sentiments that one teacher, one student contracting COVID, one teacher, one student dying is just an unacceptable number for us. And these are incredibly challenging decisions. We have the heart of everyone in mind, but we just simply can't ask our teachers and our students to risk their lives to be here right now. So
Right.
I appreciate your thoughtfulness.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the support of the board.
Thank you. Ms. Moore, you had a comment?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Felder and your team for your hard work so far. Thank you for considering the health and safety of our students and staff first. I am in favor of Plan C and moving forward towards Plan B once it's safe based on data from our local health department. I want to thank our guidance counselors in advance, and I hope that they will continue to offer services and be available to our students in case there's an increase of behavioral issues or students needing help with coping skills to adjust to these new changes in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Does anyone else have comments? I know that Ms. Doyle had a comment and she is having some connection issues right now. So maybe we'll be able to come back to her if she's able to. So I'm going to move to Ms. Stevens and then Ms. Hauser, and hopefully we'll get back with Ms. Doyle.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, I'll say that we have a plethora of emails lobbying for different options. And we all want our schools to open for face-to-face instruction. We all want that, but the infection rates continue to surge across the country and across the county. And the countries that I think Sarah said this, the countries that have managed to open their schools have done so with declining infection rates. And that is not the case for our county and our country. So based on Dr. Felder's recommendation, I too will support it because I believe safety first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Ms. Hauser. Oh, yeah. Ms. Hauser, then Ms. Doyle. Sorry.
You want, I just, first of all, I'm getting a question about the virtual academy and if there's a way to sign up outside of the survey, and maybe Dr. Dawson can answer that at some point. In the interest of metrics, one of the things that's confusing me a little bit in this conversation is today is July 16th. We're delaying the start of option B for 4 weeks. So that means from the middle of August to the middle of September. And in the interest of metrics, I wonder if we can have commit to a check-in in the middle of August to see how things are going and to let parents know if we're on track to open under B in the middle of September. I wonder if we can make a just a commitment so people know that we are moving forward to opening schools, but we will check the condition on the ground in about a month.
Thanks for your feedback, Ms. Hauser. Ms. Doyle?
Thank you, Ms. McKenzie, and thank you, Dr. Felder, for your presentation and for all the hard work of staff. I've also been moved by both the data and the numerous voices of teachers that we've been hearing from this week, and that was really highlighted with the number of cases from the Orange County data that Dr. Felder presented for the teacher age bracket, that it's 55% of our cases in that teacher age bracket, and how concerning that is. I have a couple specific questions. Two are just kind of quick notes. One, and this can be deferred till later, this first one, with the daily schedule slide, and I know those were samples. To me, it looked great for the elementary approach. The high school one, the instruction was really small. It was only 2 hours of instruction because they have 4 core classes. And so it just seems like normally they're having an hour and a half for each class per day. And over 2 days, that would be 3 hours. So I feel like, I hope to hear that that was not the intent, that there's only gonna be 1 hour of instruction for each of the 4 courses over a 2-day period. That might be something we could address more fully. Another quick comment was just, I hope we send out the survey for families again. I know that not everybody got them, and I know we have a goal to have them done by tomorrow. But the main question I have is, are we going to, and this has been spoken to, and I got cut off in the middle of Ms. Smiley speaking, so it's possible that this was addressed. I got dropped off the internet here for a bit, so I apologize if this is a repeat. But are we going to adopt a specific metric, like for New York State, the guidance is a 14-day average daily infection rate less than 5%, and the WHO recommends 5% or lower for at least 14 days as well. And I know our slightly different measure, but our percent positives as a state are at or over 7%. So what metric are we adopting as a place of safety? And I think that would be really helpful to know for families to have some confidence in this approach, that there is a very specific goal we're trying to get to feel confident in the health and safety of our teachers and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle. I think that my suggestion would be that if we adopt remote learning this morning for an opening, that perhaps we do some research and speak with the health department and vote on what our metric would be for reopening at our meeting on Monday evening. That's just a suggestion I'll put out there. I want to also share that I have heard from many people that committing to the first 9 weeks to be remote, I've heard from many teachers, I should say, that committing to the first 9 weeks would be really helpful for them. It would provide consistency, and it would provide, it would allow for families to coordinate for childcare for longer periods of time. I also think it will give us time to get our remote learning really fine-tuned and do this right for the first quarter of school. I know that staff is on that and we are moving forward in a wonderful way, but I just want to make sure we are really committing to do that as best we can. I have been getting emails from teachers who are talking about how committed they are to doing remote correctly and creatively, and I'm just inspired by the enthusiasm of our staff to really engage virtually during this pandemic. The other piece of information I wanted to make sure that the board and the public was aware of is that Chapel Hill Carborough City Schools are going to be voting to remain closed or remain remote through the first marking period today. And I feel like it would be a benefit to us to be on the same schedule as them through the brilliant networking of Board Member Smiley. I'm going to be speaking with the mayor and reaching out to Chapel Hill Carborough School District and the Board of County Commissioners to see if we can align resources for childcare opportunities and internet access issues and opportunities. So I think that committing to the same thing that they do could be really beneficial to not only our staff, but our students and families as well. Are there other comments? Mr. Atherton and then Ms. Hauser.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, you know, I'm fully supportive of our teachers and giving them the right resources and making sure, you know, they have a good plan, they feel confident. I mean, they are the front line for our students. We've got to make sure that we're doing this right. You know, at the end of the day, our goals are to educate students and to make sure they have the right resources. And Hillary, I agree, you know, reaching out to Chapel Hill. You know, we've talked a lot about trying to reach out to churches and other organizations. You know, I think about the you know, Ruleton clubs that offered up internet service, you know, that you could go there, and, you know, the transportation issues we have and the finances and, you know, all these things that are you know, adding up. You know, we've got to figure out as our community how to help address these. The other one, I agree with, you know, what everybody said, and I think it makes sense, like you said, to let's on Monday get those metrics together so we know and everybody has an expectation, and you know, we give confidence to our parents and our staff that, you know, there is a plan and this is what it's going to be, and there's no surprises when we get to, you know, this question again on what we do. So I also just want to take time to say thank you to everybody that's reaching out and giving us the larger picture of your situations, your perspectives, and the challenges. Because without you reaching out, we don't have all of those. And I just appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atherton. Ms. Hauser and then Ms. Smiley.
I just want to clarify, because to me, there's two different, I'm going to kind of repeating myself a little bit. There's two different conversations. Dr. Felder yesterday announced a recommendation to delay moving into option B for 4 weeks, which would move us into the middle of September with a revisit. Then I'm hearing now that we're really talking about waiting till to the beginning of November to move into option C. And is that something that's what I think I'm hearing. And right now, as a district, we have the option to move into B if we choose. Now, there may be, I think there's a big difference in moving a small group of kids into B versus moving 50% of our kids into B. I think they have really different risk profiles. I think there may be some kids that we really want to get back into school because, you know, because being home is not working. So I guess, are we talking today about a 4-week delay in option B, or are we talking about a 9-week delay in option B? I'm a little confused.
I think that it's the pleasure of the board to do whatever we believe is in the best interest of our district, Ms. Hauser. Dr. Felder's recommendation was 4 weeks, and we get to decide how we'd like to move forward with that. Okay. I mean, in a district that closes for snow flurries, I just have a personal difficult time justifying asking our staff to work during a deadly serious pandemic. So I'm ready to commit to the first 9 weeks. And then if our metrics that we vote on Monday night were to show that our county is in a much better position with this virus than I suspect we will be before the 9 weeks is over, then we could potentially notify people that we were moving out of it. But I just honestly, at this point, I'm not sure that that's going to happen.
Okay, so just for clarity, when we say 9 weeks, we're talking about moving into option B in November, right? That's what we're talking about.
I mean, I don't think that any of us can say when we're going to reopen, Ms. Hauser.
I'm just saying, what's 9 weeks? We're starting 9 weeks from today or 9 weeks from
The
August
first
17th?
marking period of the school year.
Okay,
The
so
first
that's
9
November.
weeks of the school year. I don't know
It's
what day that
November.
falls on.
It's probably like the 3rd or 4th week of October, math-wise.
Thank you, Ms. Smiley. Are there other comments from the board? Ms. Smiley?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the two things we're talking about. Some of the advantages that I see to saying we commit to the first 9 weeks being virtual. One, I think it grants a level of certainty to our staff and teachers and to our families. I think that from a like psychological safety perspective, there's actual benefits to the sort of mental health of people to have that level of clarity for that level of time. I think it'll cause teachers to teach more effectively, actually, to just have that level of clarity. And I think what it'll communicate is we need to be really good at this virtual. It isn't like a thing to get through in the first 4 weeks of school. You know, my concern is if we say it's a short period of time and then we say it's another short period of time and that we're not going to be sort of getting the best out of people, and it's going to just create this like ongoing unease. And so you know, I would be most in favor of saying first 9 weeks and revisiting it, like keeping an eye on the metrics actually all along to say, are we in a position where we think we can move out of that? So, but I think there are trade-offs either way. So I understand Ms. Hauser's point.
Yeah, I understand both points as well. I will add, Sarah, when you talk about the psychological welfare of our staff, I mean, I'm getting emails about our staff drafting wills and our staff having to choose between keeping their jobs and staying home because they're so scared of teaching in these conditions. And I know that there's a lot of considerations, and I don't take it lightly to keep our buildings closed. I just personally, my heart is with our staff who is really, truly fearful in a way that I haven't witnessed from our staff ever before. Ms. Hauser.
I just want to, I don't believe our schools will be safe because our board has decided that they're safe. I believe that our schools will be safe as we can demonstrate that they are safe. And so quite honestly, I've never been comfortable with the idea of all of a sudden opening up our schools for half the kids. That seems so risky with a whole set of new procedures around, you know, testing and, you know, symptom testing and distancing and all that other stuff. So, you know, I was wondering, and maybe we could delay it till Monday or, but I would be very interested in an option that certainly we wait for 4 more weeks, but start to look at a way to stagger bringing back small groups of teachers and students to make sure to pilot some of this. And might be even, I think one of our parents asked to bring some high school kids back in music ensembles. But there might be some, as long as we are allowed to open under B, can we use that, again, starting in the middle of September, not before, and assuming that everything is still going favorably, it starts going favorably, can we begin to bring back small groups, different groups, and just get it, you know, kind of prove that our schools are safe. And if they're safe with a smaller group, we could start to make it a little bit bigger and eventually transition the return to school. I'm just, you know, I just can't go from 0 to 60 in 4 weeks or 9 weeks. I just need to kind of gradually move it.
Thank you, Ms. Hauser. Other comments? Thoughts from the board? Mr. Atherton, and then Ms. Smiley.
Yeah, I just want to say, just like Ms. Hauser said, that, I think, high school, middle school, and elementary, we should look at differently. And if it means we can bring one of those groups back or a smaller group of those back and, make sure how our procedures work, making sure the distancing, our safety precautions are working, and families and our teachers, you know, are comfortable with that, I think we should consider that, at that point, right? I want to make sure we have our metrics and, our direction of, COVID is in the right to whatever, we come to on that decision that we're not still rising and we're doing this. That makes no sense. It's too risky. But I do think we've got to figure out a way that, we can do this and it isn't in just a large amount. And I do think we still need to release some of our procedures and things like that to give comfort to our teachers and our parents and set the expectation, because we're going to have to make some hard rules, right? Especially, hey, you have symptoms, I'm sorry, you can't enter the building. Do we require testing at that point before you come back? All of those things I think we've got to flush out, set the expectations, because, you know, we want to reduce that number or risk down as low as possible, below zero, as we, try to make sure the safety of the students and our staff throughout this. Thanks.
Mr. Atherton. I would say that all of those reasons are good reasons to commit to a quarter, a marking period of being remote, so that we can get all of those procedures in place, make sure that everyone feels safe, everyone's clear about how we're going to reopen, when we're going to allow people in the school. It will give our teachers the peace of mind to know that we have this period of time that they can be at home, be safe with their new babies, their children, their, figuring out what they need to do with their own situations. It will give families an opportunity to commit to childcare. I think that there are so many reasons why committing to a quarter would be just create a lot of peace of mind for a lot of people in our district. Ms. Miley.
I'm appreciating the points that Mr. Atherton and Ms. Hauser shared. I mean, I personally also think gradually bringing students back in is the better approach. I also, one of the things that I think we can talk more about on Monday, I may have mentioned it, is I think this, how are we creating productive learning spaces for students who need them, could be sort of an alternate pathway to some of that building trust that this is possible. So if we can talk more about this on Monday, just throwing it out there. If we created space in some very well ventilated buildings with all of the safety precautions, that were like learning spaces available for children of our staff, children who live in parts of the county where like even the hotspots don't work for internet, if we created some spaces and staff volunteered to work in them, right? So that kids had a building to be in to learn during virtual learning. And that proceeds safely, right? Like if that were able to proceed safely, I think that also sort of builds confidence potentially. Now, I don't know whether that's a good idea or not, but I just, what I'm saying is I really think that there's so much uncertainty that being certain about like this first 9 weeks, we're gonna do it this way, I think is just healthy for us. And that's my perspective. And I know there's a lot of downside.
Are there any other comments or discussion? If not, then I will accept a motion.
Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to go with Plan C, remote virtual instruction.
Second. This is Brenda Stevens.
I'm sorry, Sarah, was there more to that?
I wasn't sure if we needed a period of time or not. I mean, I think.
Ms. Davison, do we need to commit to a period of time for that?
It's certainly the board's pleasure. She said reopen. We could put a minimum on like at least 4 weeks.
Okay, thank you for your guidance, Ms. Stevenson. Sarah, did you want to take that in any particular direction?
You know, I think what I would be interested in maybe before I'm going to withdraw this motion, I'm curious, Dr. Felder, what your thoughts are on this. On the question of the 4 weeks or the first 9 weeks. Sorry, Brenda, I cut you off.
No. So I am now really I'm processing and listening to the discussion. I think points are being made for both, and honestly, I would need to give it some more thought. And I just wonder if we could come back to this portion of the conversation on Monday. Yeah, so that would be my recommendation. If we can know what plan we're opening under as of today, that would be helpful. Realizing that there would be, actually, I do think the recommendation at least 4 weeks. So that says it could be more than that, and maybe we can further define that on Monday. But
sure.
I guess if I could also just say, so for me, what would drive all of this are the metrics. Because again, the ultimate goal is to return to in-person instruction. And so I just wouldn't want anything to stand in the way of that. But I think the points that are being made about 9 weeks are valid, and we should consider that.
Thank you so much for that. So I will make a motion that we move into Plan C for at least the first 4 weeks, but I would like us to continue this discussion because I genuinely believe it may be better for outcomes and experience if we go with the 9 weeks.
Second, this is Brenda. And you didn't speak on me, Sarah. I was withdrawing my second the first time.
Okay.
We have a motion for Ms. Smiley and a second from Ms. Stevens. Mr. Atherton.
Yes.
Ms. Doyle.
Yes.
Ms. Hauser.
Yes.
I vote yes. Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Ms. Smiley.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens. So the motion passes unanimously. Orange County Schools will open under Plan C for at least the first 4 weeks. And we will revisit this discussion on Monday night to discuss specific measures under which we would consider reopening and possibly committing to the first 9 weeks at that time. I want to just thank everyone for the tremendous amount of work that went into helping us arrive at this decision this morning. We know that folks are going to have tons of questions, some new ones, old ones that haven't been able to be answered just yet. Please know that the district will continue to update the website with the latest information, and that we will be hosting several information sessions tonight and tomorrow, as Dr. Felder mentioned. And also we will be providing other information sessions next week on a variety of topics. We really appreciate your patience and understanding as we work through this period of time where things are changing really, really quickly. Please wear a mask, everyone. Please wash your hands and physically distance when you're able to. It's our best chance of lowering numbers in Orange County and being able to open the buildings as quickly as possible for our students, which is what this board really wants more than absolutely anything. Please know how committed to our staff and teachers we are. I'm getting so many ideas from our staff members for creative ideas as we consider moving into remote learning. And we are a strong district, and we are going to get through this time and come out stronger on the other side with all of the lessons that we've taken from this period. So unless there are any other comments or questions or feedback from the board, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Madam Chair, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Stevens and a second from Mr. Atherton. Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Ms. Smiley,
Aye.
Ms. Moore,
Aye.
Ms. Hauser,
Aye.
Ms. Doyle,
Aye.
Mr. Atherton.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for your hard work.